Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to another game review. This time, another Red Room game. This time, something a little more up my alley when it comes to genres that I'm really versed at, and that would be science fiction. Here we have Final Fantasy, their first hardcore sci-fi game rule system using the Red or Micro Red system, of course, by Miguel and Sylvia from the Red Room, with additional writing by Mark Brooks, Sylvia Clemente, Daniel Price, and Joe Coombs. All a couple of folks I've had some passing familiarity with. Cover art by, I'm going to butcher this, sorry, Kiyosaki. Interior art, Chris Villarosa, Bob Necronomicon, Jay Tanaka, Jeremy Hart, and the aforementioned Kiyosaki. Some stock art from wherever the hell, nobody cares. Which I'm kind of, as you guys know, I honestly prefer Miguel's AI art because at least it's exactly what he wanted, as opposed to, other people, and there's usually a little more spicy elements in there as well as some like more graphic, violent, darker imagery that he tends to bring into at least the other genres. This one's actually a little bit more aspirational, a little more uplifting. Right off the bat, the interior first image, I don't know if you can see that, it's actually quite nice and wholesome, which I'm guessing he wasn't feeling well that day. But also, as you can see from the thing down here, I'm going to do this in two parts. One, because I had a couple of questions that I needed answers from Miguel that I did not quite get answers from today, and I didn't want to wait. And the darn book is almost 500 pages, and I thought I would just, hack it in half and go through the regular stuff that you guys are more familiar with before I go into things in the next video, which will be the alien species, the alien races, the factions, and things like that. But right off the bat, if you're familiar with any of his previous games, 6 stats, straight down the line, more or less, D20, modern BX and things like that compatible to a certain extent, except like hit points, which are trimmed down. Although in here they're actually a little beefier than they are in Savage Swords and some other games where it's I believe it's your health times 2 plus, depending on your archetype, will give you like a D6 plus 2, 3, or 4 sometimes. And of course, as you guys know, the usual stuff like in character generation, you get your perks, your drawbacks, your origin and life path. It might give you a couple of bonuses here or there. I'm going to close this. You don't want to hear that, neither do I. Where you have, you start with rolling a D6 or a D4, depending on your GM, allowing you to run like a wealthier, more affluent character. If not, you just roll a D4, getting either, let me go through that real quick because I'm right there. The fringe survivors, laborers, specialists, corporate climbers, and then if you're allowed to roll the D6, you have the option of being able to roll on a 5 or 6 the privileged elite and a galactic power. Galactic powers are really, really quite powerful, and if you were going to use those and even have those as an option, it would be incredibly uncomfortable for the players who didn't roll that 6 unless they specifically did not want that 6, because you have like dynastic heir, scientific luminary, media titan, exotic broker, faction envoy, station owner, to which having a character like that, everybody else would be like their employee on a very, very um, unfair advantage point for the affluent character versus the not so, where they can literally buy and sell player characters of lesser, station, like, like they were, Anyways, and for each of those, you get a life path roll. I believe it's a percentile. And like I said, each one of those will give you a bonus, whether it be a stat or a perk or things like that. Then there's the alien races. I'm just going to touch on them briefly here, and I'm going to butcher the first one, Adityan, which are kind of like your space elves, very psychic. They almost remind me of I forget what they were called, but you're almost like Vorlons, but not quite, because there's another race that's closer to them with the suit, but very very powerful, psychic, and even I believe maybe having access to mysticism or spells or that sort of thing. One of the questions I had for Miguel. Then you have androids or bioroids, the Dolfar, which are a race that for the most part never leave their suit, which I've seen a lot of games that actually have that kind of alien race, and I think it actually makes a lot of sense that it would be almost not just one race, but like a whole bunch of races that would be that kind of thing. Then you have the Gustoras, which are kind of like your space satyrs or hobbits or gnomes, kind of. They also have an affinity for the wilderness and their homeworlds, sort of sylvan nature, but I think they also have access to some mystical abilities. They got humans, the Jingarni, which are a sort of Sathar serpentine slug-like sort of race. You have the Kilarish, which are kind of like a beefy, more muscular kind of the heck were they called? The Martians from John Carter. The name is escaping me. The four-armed green guys. They're very similar, very martial, very combat-oriented, very, simplified in the, their philosophy. Then you have the ferret, which are a sort of a pinkish-looking, bat-winged, very muscular-looking servitor race. The Seraphani, which are kind of like a jackal-looking race of aristocrats, maybe. Hardy survivors, keen senses. Oh, the exact opposite. Downtrodden existence, fueled. Yeah, anyways, I should show you the picture because they're kind of neat looking. It's these guys right here. And then on the other side is the last one, which are kind of a centauric looking cosmic, energized, agrarian race of weirdos. I think they have dimensional sense, plus pseudo survival rolls in alien hazardous environments, can detect nearby wormholes or full space anomalies. The Zangi. And then there's a whole section on creating your own alien races, which I think any good GM could benefit from. This system, simplify it, make it quick, randomly rolling up crap or picking things as you like. Then there's the archetype, which are basically your professions, your character, not races, classes, with things like androids, bioroids, Knights of Sidonia, which are surprisingly similar to another kind of sci-fi knight that are all the rage. Your leaders, your psionics, your scholars, your specialists, your warriors, and then the standard skill system. There's a list of about 20 skills. You've got your skill level 1 to 5, and that's your basic mechanic for getting things done is either a stat check or a skill roll, which both either rolling under your or above a target number, I should say, using your stat bonus as a bonus on the target number roll, or a skill roll using a d20, your skill level plus or minus stat bonus, as well as situational modifiers. Boom, boom, boom. Pretty easy stuff to accomplish whatever that might be, with a varying target number difficulties depending on how easy or how difficult it is, ranging from 0 to I think 30. But for the most part, a lot of the target numbers in this game, especially for the acquisition rules, are much lower than in other games where they tend to be in the 25s and 30s. These tend to be in the 15s to 20s, which is much easier to hit those numbers. Section on, various forms of combat: melee, hand-to-hand, vehicle, starship. Your perks and drawbacks, which are things like animal empath, born athlete, lucky, night vision, photographic memory, psionic potential, and then drawbacks like addicted, broken mind, dark secret, enemy, frail body, poor, timid spirit, things like that, and those can be taken at character generation, but for every extra one you got to take a drawback, evens things out, and you can add or remove those through the experience point system at the cost of 250 XP and some in-game role playing to show that you've earned it, not just, well, I get 250 points. Well, if you haven't been working toward it, you don't really get to grab it like off the shelf. And of course, without the psychic potential perk, you have no psionics. Psionics are pretty straightforward. I believe it's your psionic level 1 to 5 plus your stat bonus. So it's going to be about an 8 at best, which is about 8 times a day you can use one or more of your psychic abilities. What do you want, little animal? What do you want? You want to say hi to everybody? No. You want attention, or you want to go outside? I'm guessing you want to go outside. That's what you get. There you go. Where was I, folks? Gear and acquisition. Normally, you guys know I rail against acquisition rolls, but in this sense, they're pretty easy. And for unless your characters are really scrimping and you counting single credits and you're running out of money kind of thing, that kind of game, for the most part, with the various perks and abilities that you can have, they make acquiring things pretty easy. And I think for the most part, here it'll work if you're above a certain point. But if you're really poor, then you really should be. You should know, hey, I've only got 37 credits. That's not enough to buy this or that. But once you get to a certain point, you just got plenty of money, and just it's a matter of whether you can find the item, not whether you can afford it. I think that's what Miguel is shooting for. Otherwise, knowing exactly how much is in your bank account would be kind of the way to go. Again, the gear section, there's plenty of gear to keep anybody, happy with new inventions, new equipment. But at this point in the hobby, there's very few new inventions that I've seen theoretically, obviously, that players or GMs are going to run into or use or be able to acquire. It's all your your standard stuff. Slug throwers, laser weapons, plasma weapons, fusion weapons. Some very cool images of some really beefy looking guns. I'm going to show you a couple of these because they're just like ridiculous looking, but at the same time, I want 3 of each. And again, like most of the target numbers are well below 25, averages of 15 to 20 to obtain this or that. A nice huge section of cybernetics and implants, something Miguel is a big fan of from my understanding of the games he's written before. I'm just going through them. Various spaceships, vehicles, that sort of thing. Unless you're looking for one of those games where you build the starships from scratch, that kind of thing, this has got all of them covered. Also included in here are your standard fear and panic rolls and stats, as well as computer hacking, which he did a really a nice little section that really boiled it down, made it quick and streamlined, so you don't need volumes of text to figure out whether or not your hackers can hack into this or that. The psionics, all the abilities you're probably used to. I'm sure you could add new ones, but I think that's sort of in the purview of the GM. Carousing is also an element in this game that you can, in your downtime roll, and X, Y, or Z will happen. Throughout the book, there's a ton of really nice sci-fi art, even if it isn't AI generated. All very passable, and some of it actually nicer than what you would see in some of the other games out there, like Mongoose's Traveler or original Star Frontiers. And then we get into the space travel and the alien species, races, and all the factions and worlds, as well as the history. Briefly, the game goes about 1,000 years into the future, predicting and telling you what the Federation, I think it's called, the Earth Giant Galactic Organization, and in steps of 100 years, so you can kind of pick which era you want to run in, and what the technological and sociological advances have been up to that point. But I have gone on for almost 20 minutes, and that's usually my cutoff point, and I'm rambling about something, But I'm going to come back at you guys after I get some questions and answers from Miguel on Monday. But this would be the game that I would run for a bunch of the ideas that have been brewing in my head, as well as running a Battlestar Galactica inspired game, if I was going to do that, as well as some of the things from the Terran Trade Federation. I'm a little less happy than I used to be with the original Traveler for various reasons, and I was never a big fan of Star Frontiers, and I know there's some other games out there, but this would probably be the one I would want to run if I had the time to play or run another game during the week. Maybe someday, but right now there's just no time, no room. But I really like this one. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the supplements from Bubba and a few others who are working on those things right now. Oh, I meant the Terran Trade Federation. If I wanted to run a Terran Trade Federation game, this would absolutely be the game that I would use instead of the one Abomination that I reviewed last week. But that's what I've got for you guys. It's Friday. Have yourselves a great weekend. I will see you probably Saturday night with another live stream, because I don't think we're going to be playing Alien, which is a shame, but This would also be a great game to use to run an Alien game if you didn't want to buy into the full-on Alien universe. But like I said, I'll be back Monday with more about this. Until then, have yourselves a great weekend. Love you guys, and as always, happy trails.